Welcome to Reimagining Cyber. I'm your host, Rob Aragao. Today, we're joined by a guest who quite literally wrote the book on tracking the security industry, Richard Stiennon. He's the author of Security Yearbook, a longtime industry analyst, and the founder of IT Harvest, a firm behind one of the most comprehensive data sets on cybersecurity vendors globally. In this episode, amongst other things, we're going to dive into what the 2025 landscape looks like midway through the year, and what Richard sees on the horizon as we head into 2026. Richard, welcome to Reimagining Cyber. Anything else you'd like to share on your background?
Yeah, Rob, I guess the kind of a recent evolution, right? I've been an industry analyst for 25 years, but fairly recently I started to look back on those 25 years, and the part of what an industry analyst does that's the most fun is kind of the matchmaking that goes on as you introduce acquirers to prospects and prospects to acquirers and making those deals happen. And I, just looking back at it, some of the deals I've been, the progenitor of, I guess, by making those introductions have led to, the founders getting wealthy and then moving on to their next ones. And some of the biggest companies in the industry today got their start with introductions that I made. So that has shifted my focus into taking something I've always done, but turning into more of that focus of M&A advisory services. So that's where I am today. Yeah.
So you kind of had this reflection opportunity that gave you this appreciation, realized the value you've actually inserted into many of these different M&A activities in the past. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Well, listen, we definitely want to talk about your book, which you've been doing now for quite some time. We want to talk a little bit about, kind of just as we get into the conversation, the process that goes into putting this together, because I can only imagine it must be monumental. So just kind of walk us through maybe first your perspective on why you came out with the book, and then kind of that process you've taken to go through year in, year out, putting it all together.
Yeah. So I discovered after writing my first book that I love writing books. It's so intense and forced focused time for an extended period of time, usually a year. And then when you finally finish it, send it off to the publisher, it's just this feeling of exaltation, and you just want to start over, right? You want to recreate that feeling. So then my first book was published in 2010. And so practically every year after that, I'd been working on some book project. And I just wrapped up doing this book for Zscaler in 2019. And was at RSA launching the book there. And I had, been the publisher for that book as well. But so Zscaler had ordered hundreds of copies, and eventually 32,000 copies were distributed of Secure Cloud Transformation, which encapsulates the Zscaler story or philosophy. So I'm sitting in their booth, signing books at RSA, 400 people lined up, wrapping around the conference floor to get a book. And half the people who came up to me were saying, "Hey, I'm new to the industry. My boss said I should come to RSA to learn about the industry." And I'm thinking, "Oh, you poor fool!
Welcome to the carnival."
Yeah, exactly. This is probably not the right venue for learning about the industry, because there's always a theme, and you come away thinking, "Oh my God, zero trust is what this industry is about." And then next year, it's XDR is what this industry is about. And then I would meet founders that were doing a startup. I'd ask them to explain it. I go, "Oh, so you're like so-and-so from 15 years ago." And they go, "Who's that?" So I'm realizing as I'm thinking about, I should write another book, because book launches at RSA are great. I'm thinking what the industry needs is a history of the industry that hadn't been written. And who better than me, just came off getting my master's in history, because I'm a history buff. So why not take a stab at writing the history? And then, of course, the history is changing so rapidly, young industry, that it should be updated every year. And that turned into the Security Yearbook, which is in its 6th edition now. Wiley took it over for this edition, and it's going to publish next year's edition as well. That's how it came about.
So that's the story of how you kind of got to the point of, coming out with these now, and it's going to go into its 6th year, correct?
Yep.
As you just said.
This is
current.
now,
Yeah. And the annual kind of process, just walk us a little bit deeper into that. What goes into all of the, is it a reflection and then kind of here's, kind of the change in the viewpoint, as well as then again, what we're looking at going into the following year? Just kind of put that in perspective for the audience.
Yeah. I'm learning the cadence. It's taken a while. And now, I know enough about what the scramble at the end of the year is. It's the hard thing to do is on, December 31st to go, what was the big thing that happened this year?
Yeah.
Right. And then you kind of have to go back because we forget about, oh my God, CrowdStrike shut down half the world, that kind of thing. Or NotPetya, was the biggest cyber attack ever. And you kind of forget that 6 months later.
Right.
So I've learned to, one, track those things in my Substack posts. So so I've done the preliminary write-up kind of real time as things happen. So I can just go back and, start borrowing from stuff I've already written.
Sure.
And I keep a chapter open on failures. So, I keep a running kind of tally of companies that have failed. And you'd be surprised at how few have stories around the failure, right? There's hundreds that just disappear and I can't figure out what happened to them. But ones that actually, surprise us with, we shut the doors and laid off 175 people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I keep track of those in the chapter on failures. There's usually only 3 or 4 to add every year, but it's nice to record them as they happen. And unfortunately, there's an in memoriam section that is, dedicated to the pioneers of the industry who are leaving us. So I keep that going as well. And of course, the book is half data. It's a directory. Up till now, it's been a directory. And so we continuously are updating that data. So then sometime in November, I go off and do kind of a mock run of assembling the book. So I have to rewrite all the chapters, make sure all the dates line up and stuff. And if you're ever going to do this, hot tip, do not use the term last year or the year before in anything you write, because you got to find those in your text and change them to the dates, right? So I do all that and have everything ready to go and know exactly what I have to do starting January 1st. And then I've got 13 days to pull the manuscript together and get it to Wiley for it to be ready for RSA.
Got it. So it is quite the process, but you've gotten it kind of down to a pretty good science, it sounds like, going into.
Yeah. It's not hanging over my head like it used to.
Yeah. Again, you're holding, kind of your storyline throughout the year, right? In your Substack, that helps a lot. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So here we are, just a little bit past the midpoint of 2025, right? So as you reflect on the current edition, what would you see? Well, I guess, what didn't you see coming, if you will? What's your insights overall at this midway point?
Yeah, I'm still kind of trying to figure out where AI is going in security.
Sure.
It is, I referred to it as a tsunami the first time I wrote about it 2 editions ago, and then followed up, and now, it's here. We a year ago in our database of all the vendors, we carved out a separate category for AI security. And it's an all-inclusive right now. AI security to me means the guardrail stuff, which is the majority of startups, the SOC automation stuff, and then 1 or 2 in each of practically every other category, right? It's AI for vulnerability management, AI for attack and penetration testing, AI for GRC. So all those lumped together here at the beginning of the second half, there are 124 vendors who are standalone, right? Specialists in AI security of one flavor or another.
124 at this point, really?
124. Bigger than, email security, which is
That's
about
insane.
the same size, but it's it is crazy. And I wrote right around RSA this year, right before RSA, I wrote rather, I was taking my own advice, which I write in my books on analyst relations, is that an industry analyst, has to stick their neck out, right? You can't always,
Hmm.
you never
Yeah.
prevaricate if you're an analyst. You never say time will tell, never ever. You don't say wait and see, anything like that, right? You have to take a stand. So my
Hmm.
stand was that AI security, just like AI in general, is the biggest thing in our lifetimes, in anybody's lifetime, right? It's bigger than the computer. It's bigger than, I can't say I predate the transistor because it was invented in 57. I was born in 59, something like that. The but it's certainly bigger than the internet
Hmm.
as far as its impact on humanity as well as business opportunity, which is kind of my focus, right? It's, you can talk about health and whatever else, but the impact on our particular industry of cybersecurity, I started
Yeah.
thinking about that, and I realized, well, SOC automation, this concept of 100% triage, kind of finally erases the the problem we've had with detection and response. In that that's a never-ending battle. You just, no matter how much you invest in it, you're never going to get to 100%
Right.
anything. And you're constantly battling that, and it's not as good as all the protective stuff like encryption and firewalls and stuff
Sure.
that
Right.
actually works.
Hmm.
So so the concept that started getting pitched to me by these startups was we are going to do 100% triage. Every single alert any of your sensors generates, we are going to get to the bottom of and tell you whether or not to do anything. And of course, some are saying, and we'll take the first steps, right? We'll do our fiddling, we'll shun the attack, we'll change a firewall rule, whatever, change
Right.
configuration, restart a machine. That is game changing. And so I predicted that by the end of this year, people will start actually paying real money for this because it will really work, right? It'll
Hmm.
be, and if it really works, right? If it just pays back the investment, then it's an automatic win. It's like everybody has
Exactly.
to do it, and that's when
Hmm.
it takes off. Well, people started reaching out to me and making appointments to talk to me at RSA to tell me that, boy, was I off base here because they were already doing
Already
those
doing it.
sales. The
Yeah.
sales were there, and I've
Hmm.
seen at least 20 of these have gone from 40 people to 80 people since RSA. Fantastic, fantastic growth. By the end of the year, it'll truly, some of my other predictions, the easy one was, because I knew this was coming, but I predicted that one of these AI startups will be valued at $1 billion.
Yeah.
And, Protect AI was acquired during RSA for, I forget what it was, 460 million or something like that. So pretty easy to make a prediction of doubling in that big size.
When you see that dollar amount go down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But
And
this is a thing I think that's I don't know if I want to say the kind of low hanging fruit of where AI can truly make a quick impact in cyber, but it really is, right? Within the SOC,
totally.
as it relates to alleviating, tier one, level one, whatever you want to refer to it, kind of that triage, right?
Yep.
Element. And I did see this going on, a year and a half or so ago, maybe 2 years now, with the beginnings of that, Richard.
Right.
And you start seeing the reality. But what I think, here's like the other part of the story that I think it's important for the audience to hear, right? Because when we talk about AI, a lot of people kind of go, all right, let me understand kind of the applicability. But geez, is there something I should be worried about as it relates to me and my job, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
aspect of this is that from a tier one perspective, as we continue to kind of fine tune the precision of what AI is able to help to really alleviate the need for people on tier one, level one type of activities is extremely beneficial for people. Because
Yep.
what happens is they actually are able to invest better focused time and energy on the higher impact events and alerts in the organization that they need to deal with. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the principle that they need to start taking into account is that,
Yeah.
no, this is what you want AI to do and help you with is the low hanging fruit that now
Absolutely.
alleviates the capability you are bringing back to the organization to support their cyber strategy and effectiveness overall. Would you agree with that kind of principle?
Totally. Totally agree with that. And it's got a good mirror in the way AI is being applied to software writing, where people are
Mm,
learning, oh my God,
yep.
if you're, just a level whatever developer, you're out of a job immediately. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. if you just think of the
No.
tiered structure, for sure, if you've ever outsourced anything to India, you've got a project manager and some senior people, and then a million people that are just given very specific, we want you to open this library, change this variable, do that to it, and then give it back to us, right?
Step by step. Yep.
That stuff is perfect for AI to just do. So all those people gone, right? All those roles,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
people, obviously. Which is
Exactly.
fantastic, right? It means all
Exactly.
those people they know that their job can be assigning that to Claude and getting it done, and then
Yeah.
posting
Let it go do
to,
its thing. And now you add more
yeah,
value doing something
yeah,
else.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that's the key area that you kind of look back on, right?
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, what is your take on agentic AI?
It's the approach that's being deployed to accomplish this, and so far
To support this?
to support this. So far, 100% of the startups I've talked to and some very large companies, all apparently independently. I don't remember seeing a white paper on how to do this. All have decided that you need a swarm of AI agents that can be managed by a queen agent bee. And it tasks them with, so it'll reach out to the SIM agent and say, collect, the the alert, and then it'll say to the endpoint agent, go find out what happened on that agent, and then you'll tell the whatever agent,
Yeah.
and then pull it all together. All of them have come up with that, either mesh or
Yeah.
swarm hierarchy to get it done. So that's agentic. There's no question that that's what that is. We might have run out of terms, so we don't know what to call the next level of that. Reasoning agentic. I don't know what it'll be called, but
Whatever it's going to be. Yeah.
yeah.
You might have just coined it right there. Yeah. Incorporate that.
There you
Hey,
go.
so one other thing I wanted to kind of get your opinion on, right? So cyber, tons and tons of M&A activity. Obviously, you're tracking it. Biggest surprise so far, midway point.
I'm surprised that investments in M&A activity has flattened compared to last year. I shouldn't be, right? Because, nobody can predict that.
The market climate and
The market climate.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I learned in grade school that imposing tariffs causes depressions, right? So, and so there's another surprise. They didn't cause a depression, but they did increase uncertainty. So things are slow, right? But that said, there have been 290 funding, events so far this year of cybersecurity cybersecurity companies, and that's off by 6%.
Yeah.
And then the deal volume has been so far this year 8.5 billion. So that's 13% increase year over year. So that's good.
Increase. Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was predicting. I thought it'd be bigger. I thought we'd be back to 2021 levels. I think was the biggest year, 24 billion. So we're healthy. That's great. And M&A activity too is 160 deals so far this year. That's up slightly from last year.
Okay.
The interesting, we've never done this before, but we looked at the size of the companies that got acquired. And the average size of company that got acquired was 359 people. And the average age was 13 years old. So even though, we hear about the ones that are 2 years old with 40 people that get acquired, those are the ones that get our attention, because that seems like the path to riches. And you got to think, 13-year-old company, 359 people that gets acquired, quite a few of those are not great events for the founders or the employees, right? Because they flattened, they suffered through the cybersecurity recession we've been in for a couple of years, and they got rescued by some sort of strategic acquisition. So those are just some of the differences between my expectations and what happened.
Interesting. I mean, is there well, I don't know if you've looked at this level as well, the category, kind of what's the busiest category, if you will, so far this year?
For M&A
activity.
M&A was data security. So
it is data security.
Yeah. And I think data security is tied closely to kind of the resurgence of disaster recovery. So all the data backup companies that have been around for feels like centuries that nobody ever listened to. And evidently when the internet came along, all of a sudden we could just like stop backing things up because we didn't have computers on site. They're coming into their own and they're making acquisitions, to modernize what they do and buying the DSPM vendors. And of course, maybe you'd consider, part of what Wiz was data security because they had a DSPM solution.
Yeah.
And after that, GRC, and I don't put a lot of credence to that meaning anything other than, there are a hell of a lot of GRC companies. They don't have a lot of technology, right? So there's probably a lot of roll-up activity there. And of course, GRC's, there's so many companies in GRC, there's over 500, is because there's so many regions that have different rules and regulations. So you got to have specialist companies.
Across those, got it. Interesting. So let's take a forward look, a glimpse into next year. Now, before we kind of get into your perspective and predictions, if you will, you mentioned something to me previously, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier too, which is the directory. And you told me, but the directory actually is likely going to be removed going forward. Is that still the plan? And if so, why?
That's the plan. I've cleared it with Wiley.
Okay.
So as we shifted towards M&A activity, in January, we launched something called HarvestIQ.ai. And it was a chatbot that had access to all of our data. So, it was, if you buy a subscription to our main product, the dashboard, that's $18,000 a year. So obviously it's meant to be an enterprise kind of purchase, right? So VCs, private equity, and large enterprise that have teams that, are interested in finding good products, all the rest. The same kind of customers that Gartner has, right?
Yeah.
So we launched a product that would be prosumer, $159 a month, and it gave you access to this chatbot. We got an immediate 300 signups for the free version, which included 10 free questions with the chatbot a month, which were costing us 70 cents a piece to answer. That's how expensive it was to reach out to multiple large language models, uses up tokens like mad. Very, very expensive. So each one of these free users could have cost us $7 a piece. We didn't get a lot of paid subscribers, but then we're moving into M&A stuff. And so I've got a client that, signed up with us to help find a buyer for them.
Yeah.
And I recognize what a buyer looks like. So I find them. I asked our Harvest IQ to write me an argument for this company to buy this company. Gave us succinct, detailed, here are the gaps in your products that this company fills.
Did it really?
It was something that would take a typical associate researcher at a investment bank, a couple of weeks to pull together.
Right.
It took 2 minutes.
Wow.
And when I saw that, we immediately stopped the free access to that.
Of course. New revenue stream here. Pretty positive stuff.
And we started thinking, okay, our data is extremely valuable in the hands of an AI. So, all it takes is for somebody to buy this book for $54 and OCR the directory in the back, which unlike, paying whatever, $31,000 for a subscription to PitchBook, downloading the 25,000 cybersecurity companies and going through them manually and deciding what category each company is in and eliminating most of them because they're resellers. This has already got every single vendor by category and subcategory, headcount, growth, region, all the data right here is all you need to reproduce the data behind our business model. And we're selling it for $54.
So protect the IP going forward.
Got to protect that IP because you get that in the hands of an AI, and God forbid if an AI were trained on it, it'd be able to answer questions like, but my test question for all these agentic ones or deep research AIs is how many cybersecurity vendors are headquartered in Canada? And the answer is 138. They all come back and give you a list of between 20 and 30, and about half of which are not headquartered in Canada because they can't. They can't
right.
tell, right? It's like
Distinguish them.
Fortinet. Fortinet's not headquartered in Canada. It's incorporated in Canada. Every company has to do that, but yeah. So
yeah, to distinguish that. Interesting.
So the next year's version will have to, the content is going to include a lot more analysis, right? So we'll expose you to what the data, tells us, but not give you the actual data to work with.
Yeah. That's a very good reason, Richard. That's a very good reason. So now give us just a little bit of a taste of your prediction going into next year's Security Yearbook.
I think there are going to be some surprises. Of course, we haven't seen agentic AI applied to the attackers yet, right? So they're not investing it because, the attackers have had such an easy job since about 2010 with Bitcoin giving them a way to get money from people that they've got like infinite runway, right? They can just keep stealing and ransoming data from people, for decades to come, right? There'll always be victims for them to find. So we haven't seen any, even though it must exist, right? It's like that, we know governments and intelligence agencies are really, really interested in AI, so they must be doing something with it. And just like on the defensive side, William Gibson told us what this was all about when he wrote Neuromancer in 1995. The attack side is mirroring that. So we have agentic attackers, and we haven't seen it. And at any time that could be exposed, somebody gets evidence of it. The most sophisticated attacks obviously aren't exposed. We don't know about them. So
sure, right.
Imagine a Stuxnet level something that's operating now and probably has been, and that being either somebody screws up and it gets exposed, or the situation is so dire that they have to let the world know what they're doing. So, we're in a state of war between Ukraine and Russia, and soon most of Europe and Russia. So that could be that time frame that we see that. So it's kind of hard to predict that because it's an open-ended prediction that we discover that. But it is useful as a warning. So just like, everyone's warning to be ready for the advent of quantum.
Right.
By the way, I'm a quantum skeptic, right? There will be no quantum computing in next year that is, effective at, causing any problems at all. But that said, it's valuable to prepare for it because all the hygiene stuff you have to do to prepare for a post-quantum world is all the things you should be doing anyway. So great.
That's right.
Go for it.
Yeah.
You could argue the same thing with climate change, right? It's whether or not you're a skeptic or not, it's good to have clean air. So let's do that.
Right.
So while that is not going on, I guess, we'll still see the advent of these adversaries that you have to prepare for today, right? So if you are measuring your mean time to respond, or, mean time to detect, mean time to respond, etc., in days or even hours, that is too long a time. Because if an attack is totally automated, I've seen legitimate arguments that they're minutes and not seconds, right? You can't actually traverse a network and steal credentials, break credentials, elevate privileges, and grab what you're after and get it out. You can't actually do that in seconds. But minutes, you can. And so gone are the days that, they had 3 or 4 days at at RSA, the security division of EMC at the time. They had about 3 days to track down the Chinese hackers and could watch their activity on the network as literally teams of, professionals sitting at terminals doing their thing. And somebody had time to see when they're exfiltrating the secret seeds to the tokens and hit a big red button that literally cut off network access.
Yeah.
Those days, long gone.
Never again. That's right.
By the time by the time you even get an alert, it'll be too late. So we have to automate.
Pleasure having you on. Thanks for sharing your process, kind of what drove you to obviously come out with the Security Yearbook. It's an appreciation, obviously, for everything that you've given to the industry, for sure. Looking forward to next year's edition, but also looking forward to hopefully having you back on, maybe talking about as we get ready for your launch.
That'd be awesome.
Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again, Richard, for joining us today.
Thanks, Rob.
Hello, this is Ben, producer of Reimagining Cyber. I do hope you enjoyed Rob's chat with Richard Stiennon, and we've got some more great interviews and insights coming up in the next few weeks. So I strongly advise that you hit the follow button wherever you are listening to the podcast, and why not leave us a review and generous rating as well. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll be back with you next Wednesday. Goodbye.